Hey guys, and welcome to episode 10 of our chat series. In this episode, we will be working on the private conversation HUD components. Let's go ahead and get started, and hopefully we'll be able to keep this under 30 minutes. Let's create a new widget blueprint called private conversation. Go ahead and open that up. And in that, let's add that in here. So in here, what we need is a border, and then within the border, we need a grid panel. Within the grid panel, we need a title bar. Oh, sorry. We need a border, and within the that border, we need a horizontal box. And within that horizontal box, we need a text. And we need a button in the horizontal box as well at the end. And within that button, we need a text. And we need a scroll box below the border, the first border in the grid panel. So drag that on the grid panel. And within the scroll box, we need a vertical box. And then below the scroll box, we need another border. So drag that on the grid panel. And inside of that border, we need a size box. And inside of the size box, we need a multi-line text box. Okay, so let's go ahead and get this looking pretty. Select the first border, go over here to the brush color, and we're going to change it to black, and the opacity, we'll set it to 5 or 0.5. And you can go up here and change this to desired. Okay, and then for the size X, we'll have 350. For the size Y, we will have 450. And that's it for that border. Go ahead and select the grid panel and add 3 new row fields. The first one will be at 0.5. The index 1 will be at 5.0. And index 2 will be at 0.9. And let's add 4 column fields and set them all to 1. Okay. And the padding, we'll leave it at 4, 2. Okay, select the first border in the grid panel, and we can actually name this title bar. And we want to change the brush color to right here, 060606 FF. And then let's check these. The column span should be 4. And that's it for that. Let's go ahead and select the horizontal box inside of that. And let's set the padding to 4, 2 there. And okay, let's go ahead and select the text box in the horizontal box, and we'll call this one friend name. And for the text, I'm just going to hard code it to player for now. For the, where is it at? Friend name. Okay, what am I missing? Brush color. Alright, click on the scroll box and set the scroll box to row 1. Click on the last border and set the row to row 3 to get those out of our way. Okay, there we go. Let's go ahead and change the font size for the friend name to 16. We will leave it bold. Let's vertical line center and fill. And the padding should be, where'd it go? We will have left padding of 8, and that'll be it. Let's quickly check over these. Okay, go ahead and select our button, and let's set it to auto. Let's set the padding all around at 2, and the background color, we'll set it to this color, and let's select the text within our button, change it to a capital X, and we'll have the padding set to 15,0, change the font size to 16. We can leave it bold, and I believe that's it for that. Go ahead and select our scroll box, and we will set the column span to 4, and that's it for that. Select our vertical box and check is variable, and let's go ahead and select our friend name and check is variable, and rename our button to button close conversation and set that to is variable as well if it isn't already. And let's select our border down here, and for this border we will set the brush color to this color, a darker gray. And then let's set the column span to 4, and I believe that's it for that. Let's go down here to our size box and check height override right here, and we'll set the height override to 64. And let's select our text box multi-line, and where did it go? We will change the background color set the alpha to 0 so it doesn't have a background color. Okay. And we will rename this text box to player message is variable true. Okay. So why is there a gap below that? Let's check out our grid panel and make sure we did everything right. Okay. 350, 450. I missed something. 4,2. Yes. I think it has something to do with this title bar. Grid panel. Interesting. Okay, I'm not sure. Okay, we'll just leave it for now. Let's go ahead and go to the user interface, or create a new user interface, and we'll call this WB private conversation underscore message. And open up our chat box message, copy this entire horizontal box, and let's bring it over into this private conversation one, like that. The only thing we're going to change is right click the canvas panel, replace with vertical box, and let's delete this message node, and let's find a text node and drag it onto the vertical box and change this to message node and change it to fill, and we'll change this to desired. And for the font size, let me grab some sample text. Okay, for the font size, we'll set it to 13. Regular font, not bold. And for the wrap text at, we'll set this to 330. Let's go ahead and select these text nodes up here and change their font to 12. And that's it. Let's delete this last spacer because we no longer need it. And let's go to the event graph. And in this event graph, we need to create a new variable called message, editable, expose on spawn, private, and of type schat message. Let's delete the event tick. And so on construct, we need to run a sequence, and we will grab the message node, get it, and call set text, connect up the execution wire, and we need to click and drag the message variable and break it and connect up the message. Let's get rid of these other pins. Okay, let's go ahead and click and drag the message time node, get it, and call set text. And what we will do is drag off the message time and call date time from ISO string, drag off the result and do as time from UTC, and connect up the text and the execution pins. And we should be done with that widget. Let's go back to our private conversation. Actually, let's go to our player controller right here. And in the event graph, at the end of our executes on machine that has a local player controller, we need to create a temporary HUD. Let's create a new variable called WB private conversations. Make it private, an array, and set the type to our WB private conversation reference. And we'll put that in the chat system group. And let's go ahead and get this, and we will call array add. And for a temporary solution for loop, go ahead and add a for loop in this, because we don't have the backend support yet for the private conversations. So this will give us a couple of widgets. Actually, drag off this and call create widget. Create a new private conversation. Owning player would be self, and return value connected up into the array add, and then drag off this return value again and call add to viewport, and I will clean up all of these nodes later. And then after we do that, let's go ahead and go back to the private conversation again, and let's add an event, or two event dispatchers called on close conversation. We need to pass in a widget reference, and we'll call it conversation. And new let's call this one send message. And with this one, actually we'll call it OnSendMessage and stay consistent. With this one, a new variable will be returned of type sChatMessage. We'll call that message. Compile and save. Go back to our player controller. And after add to viewport, we need to call, let's drag off our return value here, and we need to call assign on close conversation, so it'll create the event for us. And connect those up like that. And when the conversation is closed, we need to call remove from parent, which will remove the conversation window from the player's UI. And let's go back to our private conversation and select our button close event and add a new on clicked handler, and we will simply call on close conversation. And for the conversation, we'll pass in self. We shouldn't need that. Okay, so let's test this really quick. Compile and save. So now we've got our windows. That's a little bit off. And there's two of them. You can't tell because they're stacked. So let's go ahead and close out of that. Oh, actually, this should work. There we go. So the second one was removed, and now the first one. Okay. So we need to add a custom event called custom event receive message, or just receive message is fine. And its parameter type will be a message. The type would be sChatMessage. And what we need to do is we need to drag off this and call create widget and use our WP private conversation message. Connect up the message. Owning player will get owning player. And let's grab the vertical box, get it, add child to vertical box. Take the return value of our create widget, plug it into the content. And after we do that, let's go back to the designer, grab our scroll box and mark it as is variable. Grab the scroll box, get it, and call scroll to end, just like that. Compile and save. And let's see. I think I'm missing something else. Oh, so we don't have a send button in this window. So we need to, when the user presses enter, we need to send the message. So to do that, let's go over here to functions, override on preview key down. And in here, let's see, we need to grab the endKey event and call getKey. We need to grab the return value and do equal, and instead of any key, we'll look for the keyboard enter event. And then we need to grab the player message, get it, and we need to check has keyboard focus. So if the message input has keyboard focus, and boolean, add a branch. So if it does not have keyboard focus, we just need to return. Drag off this, and we need to return an unhandled event reply. Otherwise, if it does, what we need to do is we need to create a new function called send message. We will make it private. Let's go back to on preview key down, and we need to call this on the true branch, and then we need to call our return node with a not an unhandled but a handled event reply. We'll connect up the execution wires like that. Compile and save. Go to our send message, and what we need to do in here is, let's give us some more room. Time check, 20 minutes. We need to grab the player message. We need to get text. We need to create another function called create message. Make it private. And this will take a player message variable of type text, and its output will have two. The first one is a boolean that says whether the message is valid, and the second one would be chat message of type sChatMessage. Compile and save, go back to send message. So we need to call create message here, plug in the player message value, add in a boolean that the message is valid. We need to call, if it's not valid, we can just call a return node. Add a new output to our send message function of type boolean, and we'll call it message sent. So on our true branch, let's go ahead and drag off the player message and get it, and we'll call set text multi-line text box, and that'll clear out the user's entered message because we're sending it. And then we need to call OnSendMessage right here, call, and we need to take this structure output and plug it in there. And then we need to add a return node, message sent, set it to true. File and save, open up our create message, and in here what we need to do is drag off the player message and call text trim preceding and trailing, and we need to right click, promote to local variable, and we'll call it the message. And then we need to create a new GUID and right click, promote to local, and we'll call it the GUID. And let's go ahead and connect up these execution wires. Okay, so now we need to grab the message, get it, and we need to call text is empty. And let's add a new branch. If the text is empty, connect that up. If it's empty, message value set to false. If it is not empty, what we need to do is do another return node, set this to true, and we need to drag off the sChatMessage and make it. We won't need the author player ID, and we need to connect up the GUID and the message right there, and we need to right click and look for UTC now, and then grab this and call it as ISO, or to string ISO 8601. Plug that into the message time, compile and save. And now that should be working. Let's go ahead and go over to the player controller again, and this time we will this is a temporary thing, but let's go ahead and grab our WB conversations and get the item at the 0 index, and then in here we need to call, did we not add it? Let's go back to our private conversation event graph, receive message. We need to call receive message whenever someone sends a message to the chat box, and this is just mocking a private conversation. It's just to show us that the widget displays correctly. So if I send, we can see that it added the text and it scrolled to the very bottom of the window. And I can't move this window, but we will do that in the next episode. However, that button is squished. Let me see if I can figure that out. Let me do a quick time check. 24 minutes. Oh, I think I know what the problem is. Pretty sure I forgot the padding on the X. No, I've got it there. Auto. Let's look at the title bar again. This always happens on recording. What is going on? Grid panel. While we're in here, we can rename this vertical box to message list and this scroll box to message scroller to make it easier when we're in the event graph. And is it my size box? Height override 76. Padding 0. Border padding 0. Oh, row 2. There we go. Okay, so I set the wrong row for the border down here. Okay, so now let's compile and save. We can close this chat box, and then if we send, everything is displaying quite nicely. Let's open up our private conversation message again, and we will go to the designer. And really quick, what we can do is let's select the horizontal box, open up this padding, and for the left we'll do 9, for the top 15, the right 9, and the bottom 2.5. And select the message node, and for this we'll do 9, 0, so the sides are 9 and the bottom and top is 0. Compile and save and play, and now that'll just add a little bit of padding to our messages. Let's close this top one. So we've got some nice padding so it doesn't look all squished. Okay. And quick time check, 28 minutes. Okay, we'll go ahead and end it there. So this was a pretty simple episode. We just created a HUD for the private conversations. Alright, in our next episode, we will be adjusting the regular chat box. And then we will we'll make the private conversation draggable so you can drag it around the screen. So thank you for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, and share. It helps. And add in your comments if you have any feedback or suggestions or questions. And I will see you guys in the next video.